This week in comic books, we get a book from DC that shows us just how cold blooded Batman can really be. Jumping over into Marvel, we find out that there's a guy that wrote a comic book and he wanted to kind of write about sex, but I doubt he's ever had sex because it's weird and it doesn't make any sense. And then in the land of Indies, we get Delta Dogs, and man, am I excited about Delta Dogs. If you don't know about Delta Dogs, you definitely wanted this review. This is going to be a great one. All that, a crap load of more comic books, but let's hit that intro first. Check it out. Hey, wonderful weirdos, welcome back. It's Pocan Joe, and as always, you're pretty cool for swinging by. Love having you here. Let's jump right into this week's comic books because I got a ton of them, like a lot. So we're going to jump right into these. The first one we're going to talk about is Batman Reptilian. This is cool. This is cool. First, let me show you this artwork in here. Again, I'm not a expert in art by any means, but everything kind of has this kind of New War feel to it. The glare's kind of bad, but you kind of get the point there. And then it gets kind of like, right? Stuff like that. So in this, all the villains in Gotham are kind of getting together, and there's a murder that happens, and Batman's on the case, right? Batman's on the case, and he's got to try to figure it out. But the way he kind of extracts information in this one kind of makes it feel like he's a lot more cold-blooded, being the Reptilian. I still don't know if the title is referring to Batman's attitude in this, because I wouldn't put that past Garth Ennis to kind of lay that in there as sort of the kind of theme of this, or if there's another villain or not. I don't know. Either way, I really like this. I like the intimidation factor of all this. It definitely plays well, and it's a super, super fun book. Moving on. Something I've been reading here lately, been enjoying this story arc too. This is by the Yang Gang themselves, not that weird politician guy, but the talented one. This is still taking place where we kind of have our multiverse, if you will, of film and storytelling, where everything's kind of bleeding together in this one. We get a couple of iterations in this one. First, we do the normal battle stuff, and then we go to Rand, where... Anyway, he's in here, or his old lady is anyway, because they go into like this future sci-fi type place, and then they story hop into the West, right? But then we find something about this particular program that it's the armor that makes him this way, that makes him the villain. So therefore, there's an innocent person on the inside of it that's just being controlled by this particular thing. I really like the way they kind of highlighted this. Let me show you a quick picture of it because it's actually pretty cool the way they do this. And so everything's kind of based off of film, right? That's kind of the theme that we're going with here. So at the very end, well, there's our Artur our Io character. But then it was like, I'm sitting here reading it, I'm like, okay, everything's based off film, everything's got a catchy noir thing to it, or an old school spy story, the Traveler story. They've done a western, they've done a sci-fi. So what's the next thing they could possibly do? Well, Bubba, the next issue's going to have horror. And I'll be honest with you, I'm very excited about that. I think that's going to be a fun read. I really enjoy it. I love that cover too. That's just screaming classy there. I like that. So definitely, probably one of the more enjoyable books that I read this week, because God knows there's plenty of Batman. Jumping right into Detective Comics. This week in Detective Comics, it's kind of a weird one because we find out that Worth, our villain Worth, he got arrested for blowing up a police station and shooting RPGs all over town. But like the moment he walked in, he like signed a piece of paper and walked right back out. Like he was in, and then he was out, and it was done because he's rich, right? They can do whatever they want. There's been a lot of great stuff in here, especially with this assistant to the mayor, who's this parasite type creature thing. Let's go ahead and say an alien or something like one. That sucks the energy off things. He wants to attach himself to Worth, because that's what parasites do, right? They find a more healthier subject, they'll bounce to it, and that's what he's doing in this as well. And of course, Worth is not just dropping, the gauntlets here and saying, I give up. He's more dedicated now to destroying Bruce Wayne and now Batman, not knowing that they're the same person, of course. Also, we get kind of like a reintroduction or a reboot, if you will, not in the typical sense, but Penguin's kind of been this character in the background that just owns a club, does some minor stuff. Well, apparently a couple of the Bat Brats made fun of him. He didn't much like this. He's not getting the respect that you give like a mob boss. And so homicidal penguins coming back, right? And I love the narration of it where they kind of talk about how penguins have been around just as long as dinosaurs, and they're the only things that survived it. Um, so yeah, this is gonna be good. He kind of goes back, and one of his thugs kind of disrespected him. So it looks like he's going to be linking up with Worth as well to kind of move this plot forward, bring in some more villains. I like that idea. As campy as the Penguin is, he can still be fun. Still be fun. Moving on. Superman, number 23. Man, what a heart engaging story. About a son coming out of his own. And whereas Superboy is uplifted by his father, this alien kid's kind of crushed by his father because, he's not manly or strong. He kind of wants to be a mind type of person, or a genius, if you will. So, like, the whole thing ended up, even though he was part of the savior of the whole thing from the Shadow Keeper. The whole thing just turned into a fiasco, and the poor kid's got to leave the planet. And even Superman himself, reflects on this. Like, how lucky does my kid got? Like, holy crap. Like, I genuinely love my kid. The secondary story in here, I pretty much just stopped reading it. Like, it's not that it's not my cup of tea. It's kind of weird. They tried to do this buddy cop thing with Beast, or not Beast, but Wildling or something like that. It doesn't even matter. But yeah, this was just a heartbreaking story and uplifting, all rolled into one. And again, that was Superman number 32. Moving on to Justice League. So Justice League, I went with this cover here. I like busy covers. They make me happy. You can kind of look around in there and see if you see different things. Not so much in this one. It's pretty straightforward. In this one, Black Adam gets offered a seat with the Justice League to kind of give a different point of view. And Superman's whole concept of this is bringing you on board. We're not trying to make you better. We're just trying to make ourselves better. Different point of views, different pay, right? That's kind of the plot they're going with here. And he thinks about it, but he's got a book out. We also get some inside story of more about that battle that happened in this other world that Naomi's from. And, this kind of reasserts that now she's technically part of the Justice League too. And, we take care of our own, and we got to go figure this out. But we got to go there with an actual plan this time, because this last thing, and if you don't know, it was just a fiasco. But the villains there too are like, all right, we need to kind of reorganize ourselves a little bit here and go attack them. So what's going to happen first? Are they going to go back and fight them? Or is this world going to come and try to attack us again with a bigger, badder, campier plan, if you will? I don't know, but I know I'm excited about it because it's actually good read and I do enjoy it. Next, Robin. This is an interesting one. This is almost a filler. It's almost a filler. It is. It's a filler issue. It's an in-between issue. But it's a good one. In this, we meet Hawk, who is Oliver Queen's son, the Green Arrow, and Robin, and they kind of share a moment where they kind of talk about how weird their dads are, right? Like, does your dad do this? Does your dad do this? Your dad rich? Your dad rich? Like, they kind of do this back and forth thing, and they end up laughing, which means that Robin's kind of learned this lesson that Ravager was trying to teach him about, sometimes you just got to let your hair down, even in the most awkward, getting ready for the most awkward situations or the worst situations. It's still okay to enjoy a little. Keep your head in the game, but a little levity goes a long way too. Keeps the stress down. And I really liked that lesson. That was a good lesson. We also find out the new leaders of the whole League of Assassins. Doesn't much like Robin. Had him thrown off the cliff. Hawk ended up having to do that. He lands on the beach. Didn't kill him, though, because that's the rule, right? No killing. Didn't say anything about maiming people, though. And we see Ra's al Ghul come out of the shadows to kind of help his grandson. And that was kind of cool. Family's tight, right? Even if they're villains, family, right? So that's kind of cool to see Ra's al Ghul kind of come out of the shadows and get back involved a little bit. Honestly, I've kind of had Talia Ghul. I've I don't know what it was about 2019, 2020, but she was in damn near every DC book. And it was just like, it's a little much. Let's change it up a little bit. And apparently they did. They brought in her father. But regardless, it's a fun book, and it's it's engaging. I would definitely pick it up. If you haven't picked it up, it's not too late. This is only Robin number 3. I'm sure you can get the other issues relatively cheap. I think it's one of those under the radar type books that a lot of people are just going to pass up because they're too busy specking on stuff and they're missing out on good reads. So I would definitely check that out. Next for DC, yeah, a lot of DC this week, right? Today was a heavy DC week. And this we get, what is this? Action Comics number 1032. This is interesting. I'm really into this story because I'm still trying to figure out if I like it or not. But this is interesting where we have these older Kryptonians, and I'm gonna try to say the name. What are they calling themselves? All right, you ready? Typhlosions? Philosians. Let's go with Philosians because I put a T there to mark that that's where the word is. So we're going to go with Philosians. Maybe? Comment below if I'm right on that. Anyway, apparently this is an ancient civilization of Kryptonian, a colony or a tribe, if you will. Regardless, they left Krypton at some time ago. We'll probably get some more history about that later. And our main character in here, Tylo, she her power is activated, right? Because technically she's Kryptonian and didn't know it and ended up blasting Superman. This whole chains thing kind of was explained to us and what their philosophy is. So Superman to them is kind of like a Jesus character that they've been waiting to come back, right? And so there's a religious aspect to it. That's interesting. And Superman being looked at as that kind of supernatural being. Okay, we could see that. We see that a lot in the movies and stuff. And then there's like this runestone that they had on their ship with them, and it's magical, super powerful. U.S. government wants it. Atlanteans have it. They don't want to give it up, so we may have a little conflict there, as Trevor and Arthur kind of go at it a little bit, talking about who's going to be taking this thing. It's interesting. So we got a lot of dynamic things going on in this book. Plus, I'm interested in this Mongol number 2. Right, so we've confirmed that in this book for sure, that it's not the Mongol, it's Mongol number 2. And him coming off as more of a scary cult leader, I think I'm really enjoying that too. Like, he's just like a sadistic type character. He doesn't mind torturing and things like that. It's not that I agree with that, but it definitely makes an interesting villain, especially in DC, because it can get a little campy sometimes. So this is definitely good. I'm enjoying this. And let's see here. Heroes return. Our big battle happens. And the world was reset. Like that. One battle. Boom. It was done. So Coulson was working with Mephisto. Well, he's in hell now. And apparently there's going to be like a council or I think they said like 600 or some odd different Mephistos in there. 615 Mephistos in there. So we got a Mephisto party about to happen all over the earth. Just all over the earth. They battle it out. You know, the ones that are similar in some way, shape, or form are fighting each other. But what happened is, and this is the interesting part. So the world changed. There was what you would call a real world and then this world, right? Well, the problem now is that the people that existed in this world, the heroes of this world, their world is gone. So where's their world at and where do they fit in? Well, our Nighthawk rip-off Batman character, he's not very happy about this situation, and he's very dedicated to try to change things back in some way, shape, or form. It looks like he'll be teaming up with Hyperion. It's almost like a Batman-Superman story to some degree. But it should still be interesting. And I'll be honest, this was the sleeper. Like, when I started reading this, I was like, I would go back to my videos. I was making fun of all this stuff. And then it was like, oh, wow, there's a little bit of a story in here. And it turned out to be halfway decent. So I enjoyed it. I'm not putting it at the top of my list or pick of the weeks. But it's definitely interesting when you got a lot of comic books to read to kind of read a different take. Moving on. Fantastic Four, Life Story number 2. This is like what they did with Spider-Man a year ago. And this one, but again, they take a different approach to it. So Reed Richards and Sue Storm get married in this one, of course, but she kind of takes more of a domestic role in the relationship instead of a superhero role. And Reed Richards is obviously very focused on Galactus because he got a vision of it. Even Doctor Doom worked with him for a while, takes advantage of him, tries to screw him over, the whole 9 yards. What ends up happening in this is, it's actually kind of funny. Reed Richards and Sue Storm end up separating, right? They're separating, and they got a kid too, right? So they end up separating, and she immediately goes and hooks up with Namor, who apparently owns a cottage in Florida or something now, because he got out of the water and read a book in the library. I know it's weird. It's just weird, but it is what it is. And this was majority of this book was about Sue Storm regaining her status as a hero and not just your typical housewife that can turn invisible. Yeah. Okay. Amazing Spider-Man number. So I got it. Yeah. Number 69. Giggity. This is weird. Let me read off the list of villains that are in this one, because this is going to be interesting. Let's see here. Okay, you ready for this? Here we go. We got several Jack-o'-lanterns, Foreigner, Chance, Finisher, Slide, Peter Parker's classmate, who's technically turned into a villain now. He's the one that's got the MacGuffin device that can predict the future. Plus, we get the intro to the Sinister Wars. But most of this is just, and of course, bad guys screw bad guys over. I think this MacGuffin device, this clairvoyant predictability future reader thing, will ultimately be the reason why you're going to have your Sinister Wars here soon, which I can't wait for, because reading this, it was just like, why is this a story? I was like, come on, man, there's nothing unusual about Spider-Man shoving as many villains as they can for him to go against. It's pretty much par for course there. But this is just... I can't put my thumb on why I don't like this. I'm reading it, and it's everything's just a stress level of 10, and it's just boring. It's boring. It was boring. And I hate to say that, because I really do like Spider-Man books. Speaking of boring... Boom! That's right, Way of X. I'm reading this so you don't have to, at least this story arc. So this is Way of X number 3. If you're not familiar with this, basically Nightcrawler's trying to understand religion with his heavy Catholic background, and he's trying to make sense of a new religion. So he takes one of the first rules, right, or commandment, if you will, and it says make more mutants. So of course he thinks traditional, right? Boop, 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 boop. That kind of thing, right? And apparently there's a lady that's basically running a fans-only brothel in town, and every now and then they make up babies, or people will drop off babies there. It's a different society. That's one thing you gotta look at. We get some of his, and this was funny, Nightcrawler gets drunk and starts ranting at a party. I can't even say he was ranting, but he was just being an obnoxious, drunk, religious zealot, if you will, or religious holy roller, if you will. It was just annoying. So this whole issue was about procreation and sex and the emotions that are attached to it, even where Legion himself had to help out a young female couple kind of get past some stuff to come to find out that they didn't like each other as much as they thought. So this is not how humans act. Well, I guess that would be fair. I guess that would be a fair... They're mutants, right? So they're not human, they're mutants. This thing makes no sense. The dialogue constantly contradicts itself throughout one point to another in this book, and it's almost to the point to where it's just ridiculous reading at this point. This is poor writing. It sounds like it would be a good story, but then the dialogue gets in the way of it, and that's not good, right? Because you're trying to tell a story. You gotta tell a story somehow. It has to have to do dialogue. But in this, it's 1 minute, this lady that runs the brothel slaps the hell out of Nightcrawler, and then says, "Follow me, I won't bite." It's why would you follow her? You should have just dropped her off a cliff and been done with it. So it's just a mess of nonsense and word salad being thrown together to make somebody think that something deep is going on there. But the truth is, it's just do what thou wilt type philosophy. and screw anybody you want. Like, it's bad. It's bad. Not from that sense. It's just presented bad. All right. If you don't know, Delta Dogs is one of my favorite comic books, and it's not the most easiest book to get. It's on Comixology. It's a local guy here in the area. I've ranted and raved about this book, and this issue came along, and I'm telling you, Bubba, it's finally peaked to my pick of the week. Like, this was a great story, and I'm going to show you why. Again, not an artist guy, but it's been interesting watching this comic book come along and grow, and then you get beautiful splash pages like that. If you don't know, this guy has he's a villain. He's got like tattoos on him, and he can use the tattoos as weapons. So there's like cannonballs that are spying, chains, stuff like that. But what's interesting about this book is this whole conflict of not liking police officers, which both of the hero and the villain had a problem with police officers. But then the hero has to step up and be the hero and save a police officer. She was down and out, and then the police officer had to come back and save the superhero, and this puzzled our villain in it. And our villain has a right to be somewhat puzzled by this, because he was in prison, unjustly, too, I might add. And I really like the moral lesson in here that just because you have a badge, or just because you wear a certain color, or you're a certain type of person, does not make you automatically indicative to the reputation of it as a whole. Yeah. And I thought that it was done smart in here, and it was something that our hero learned in here immediately and executed and did the right thing. Do the right thing, Lord and mercy, right? And that happened in here. And man, the writing just keeps getting better every time. The artwork in here, I'm actually enjoying it. Like, look at this. Look at that close-up, old bird just smoking that gun. Right? Oh, man. It was good. I liked it. The game has definitely stepped up. I love it when they do this blurry thing where he runs fast. If you haven't checked out Delta Dogs, you gotta check out Delta Dogs. Like, if you're a comic book reader and you enjoy comic books and you kind of miss the moral messages that most people would agree on, Delta Dog does that for you, and I definitely pick it, and I'll support that comic book all day long. Good stuff. All right, another pickup, Good Luck. I don't really understand this book. It has something to do with good luck and bad luck being actual beings that exist. And a group of unlucky kids have to go get something called a core because bad luck and good luck touched each other. Is that about right? Am I missing something? If you read this and you're like, no, it's actually more of a metaphor for... Let me know in the comments, because I completely missed it. I don't hate the book. I just don't understand what's going on in it. Because sometimes, hey, I'm not even that bright. All right. Tank Girl number 5. This is a Scotty Young cover. Okay, that's for my wife. But this is just a funny homage. It's more like one-liner jokes. Right? Like what Mad Magazine used to do, a couple of pages. Spawn Universe. Oh, you're going to have to wait for my review on this for Blaster Stash at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Because this is good, but you can see how thick that is. But basically, we get a reintroduction to some spawns, and we kind of launch out this whole Spawn Universe thing, and how this is going to work. And it all starts with a cyborg gorilla, hell, heaven, and everything in between. It's the best way I can describe it. It's Todd McFarlane. So you can't ever hate it, but it can be confusing. Nuclear Family, last issue. Hey, guess what? They made it home. Hopefully everything's back to normal. We'll find out here soon, because evidence of the past was left in the past. It's a weird way to phrase that, but I promise you it's correct. And last but not least, more of the origin story of our heroine, Erica, from Something Is Killing the Children. Basically, we get the St. George background. We kind of already predicted that. It was St. George. He killed the monsters, made everybody swear an oath. Ta-da. And then we get her first challenge, if you will. And, some of the people are kind of warming up to her, so that fits in just fine there, too. And that is it. What else I got? Don't forget, Blaster Stash at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on the YouTubes. Myself, Spectacular Spider Grandpa, and Huey. We're going to go over some of this stuff, and maybe even some stuff that we didn't have. We'd love to see you there on our chat live with some of our loyal fans, people like Jacko Comics and Mars Comics and Ms. So and everybody else. Like, we just have a great group in there, and we want you to jump in there too, nerd out a little bit, talk about comic books, say some one-liners, and have a good time. All right, guys, I got nothing else. I got to book out of here. Oh, a big shout out to Remy Q. Last weekend I was able to get down the bulletproof resin encasement of protecting a comic book down to him. They're going to have a really good cause on Cardboard Crazies live stream where they're going to do a stream for cancer and stuff like that. And this was my donation to it, something that they could try to break into and get out. Silver Coin issue number 1 is in there with a variant cover. So good luck, guys, with that, and have fun with it. All right, guys, I'm really out of here this time. I got to take my wife to dinner. I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.